Hi, welcome back to Math 111. Today we're going to talk about section 1.3, which is an introduction to functions. And I'm going to do some examples in subsequent videos, and maybe a couple in this one, but I want to begin by making sure we understand what we mean by a mathematical function. So, functions are a special subclass of relations. So one way to think about this, and this comes from your text, but a relation in which each x coordinate or each x value that is placed into that relation corresponds with or is matched to exactly one y coordinate. So in other words, if we know what x is, we know what the corresponding y is, and there is no confusion. And one way to test this is with something we call the vertical line test. So for example, the relation that is a circle, well, let's do a sideways parabola. So this is a perfectly valid mathematical relation. It's not a function. And how do I know that? Well, I know that because if I imagine sketching a vertical line through there, right? We've got one x value with more than one y value. So this is not a function. Whoops, sorry. A vertical parabola, or more interestingly maybe, this guy that is a cubic, no matter where I draw a vertical line through that relation, that vertical line, or really any vertical line, only intersects that relation once. So this is a function because there is exactly one y for any given x. Okay. Now, when we start talking about functions, we are going to start talking about the domain of a function. And the domain of a function is the set of all x values for which the function has a defined output. And we're going to practice finding domains in a minute. You can think of this also as all of the x coordinates that can be associated with a y coordinate for a given function. And that set of y values, that's called the range. The range is the set of all y values that can be produced from the set of all x values. Okay. Now when we start talking about functions, we tend to start using names. So we'll say the function f. Don't let that throw you. That's just a way of giving a name to this function. So let's go ahead and talk about how we find the domain of a function. Your textbook talks about this pretty clearly in terms of roster-defined functions and in terms of graphs. What I want to talk to you about are the algebraic definition, the algebraic ways that we find domains. So remember what the domain is. Well, yeah. So the domain is a set of all x values for which the function has a defined output. So there are some rules of the universe that we need to keep in mind when finding domains. Because these are the things that are going to tell us what values have to be excluded from a function's domain. So, first of all, we cannot divide by 0. So any x value that would make us divide by 0 when a function is trying to do its work has to be excluded from the domain of that function. The second thing is that we cannot take a square root, or really any even root, of a negative number. And those are really the two big ones for now. There are more, but they are mostly reserved for later courses. So there's a couple of questions in the homework that ask you to find the domain. And one of them is, and actually what they're asking you to do is find the values that have to be excluded from the domain. And keep in mind these two rules as you're doing that. And what you need to do is just look for the rule that the relation or the function might violate, and then find the x values that would cause it to violate that rule. We'll do a lot more of this, but this is your basic introduction, so I hope this has been helpful. Thanks.